The map you see in your mind when you think of world history. It's wrong. We're taught a simple story. Civilization was born in Europe, and from there, it spread to the rest of the world. Progress, ideas, power all flowing from a single source. But what if I told you that for most of human history, that story is completely backwards? What if the map was upside down? Let's redraw it. For thousands of years, Europe wasn't the center of the world. It was the edge, a remote, fragmented peninsula on the far western side of a much larger, more connected world. The real action, the true heart of civilization, beat far away from there. It was a world where wealth, knowledge, and power didn't flow from west to east, but along a different axis entirely. Imagine a world centered not on Rome or Paris, but on cities whose names might sound like a whisper from a forgotten dream. Baghdad, Samarkand, Bukhara, Merv. These weren't just dots on a map. They were the gleaming hubs of human achievement. Baghdad, the city of peace, was the world's largest metropolis, boasting a population of over 1 million people when London was a town of barely 20,000. It had public hospitals, free for all citizens, vast libraries like the legendary House of Wisdom, and universities that attracted the greatest minds from across continents. In Samarkand, astronomers mapped the stars with astonishing precision, while in the markets of Bukhara, merchants traded goods from China, India, Africa, and the distant lands of the Rus. This was the real global crossroads. What connected these magnificent cities and the empires that surrounded them? It wasn't one road, but a complex web of arteries we now call the Silk Roads. This network was the circulatory system of the ancient world. It stretched for thousands of miles across brutal deserts, over treacherous mountain passes, and through bustling river ports. Caravans of camels, sometimes numbering in the thousands, were the lifeblood of this system. They carried more than just silk from China, which was so valuable it was used as currency. They transported spices from India that were worth more than gold, glass from the Roman East, paper, gunpowder, and technologies that would slowly, eventually, find their way to a slumbering Europe. Control of these routes meant everything. It wasn't just about taxing the flow of goods. It was about controlling the flow of information, innovation, and influence. Empires rose and fell based on their ability to secure a piece of this network. The Parthians, the Kushans, the Sasanians, the great Islamic caliphates, their power was built on the wealth generated by this incredible engine of global trade. Power radiated outwards from the center, and Europe was on the periphery, a recipient of goods and ideas, not a generator. So what was happening in Europe during this golden age of the East? While Baghdad had streetlights and a sophisticated sewage system, many European cities were little more than wooden settlements huddled behind crumbling Roman walls. Life was a constant struggle for survival against famine, disease, and conflict. Their economies were localized, their knowledge limited to what had been preserved in isolated monasteries. The vibrant, cosmopolitan world of the Silk Roads was a distant legend, a source of exotic luxuries that only the wealthiest nobles could afford. The history we learn, the one that places Europe at the core of the story, was written much later by the descendants of these very people. It was written by those who rose last. This brings us to a crucial, almost investigative question. Why isn't this the history we are taught? Why is the narrative so skewed? History isn't just a collection of facts. It's a story, and stories are shaped by the storyteller. The perspective we're given is overwhelmingly Eurocentric because, for the last 500 years, European powers dominated the globe. And when you win, you get to write the history books. You get to decide who was civilized and who was not, who was at the center and who was on the margins. They didn't lie necessarily. They just rearranged the timeline to put themselves at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the story. They created a narrative that justified their own rise to power. To truly understand our world today, we have to look past this simplified version of history. The real story is far more complex, interconnected, and fascinating. In our upcoming episodes, we're going to peel back these layers. We'll explore how religions like Buddhism, Christianity, and Islam traveled along these trade routes just like bolts of silk, competing and blending in the marketplace of ideas. We'll see how deadly pandemics like the Black Death were supercharged by this global connectivity, wiping out empires and redrawing the map of the world. We'll witness the rise of colossal empires like that of the Mongols who unified this entire world system under a single rule only to vanish just as quickly, leaving a power vacuum that would change the course of history forever. This is the real story of our shared past. It's a story of forgotten cities, of vast deserts, and of the incredible human connections that tied our world together long before the age of European exploration. This isn't the history you learned in school. This is the hidden history that truly shaped the world we all live in today. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next.